Good morning, Tuckahoe family. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Walter Hogan. As I was putting the finishing touches on my talk, I was looking for a descriptive term that would appropriately describe a few of the following events I will talk about. The day before my meeting with Lee to record my talk, I came across an article on Max Lucado. For those of you who do not know who Max Lucado is, he has been described as America's pastor and the best preacher in America. In the article, Max talks about inflection points in life, crossroads that demand a decision. He talks about a time when he wrestled with God, and the descriptive term that I will use in my talk, which I have borrowed from him, he calls them events that timestamp life. So here we go. A little over 30 years ago, I just finished cutting my grass when I turned around, and walking towards me across my lawn was a neighbor, Zelma Revere. I knew Zelma, but not well, and I wondered why she was coming to talk to me. After some small talk, she invited me and my family to church at Tuckahoe. I thanked her for the invite, and as I put the lawnmower away, I began to think that perhaps we should take her up on her offer. It was a very hectic time in my life. After some discussion with the family, we decided to come to church at Tuckahoe. I've looked back on that moment when Zelma extended the invitation to attend Tuckahoe as a timestamp event in my life, a life-changing moment for me. The first 10 to 12 years at Tuckahoe were smooth sailing, but in 2005 I ended up getting separated and ultimately divorced. During that period, I'd pulled back from the church, and although I did not realize it at the time, I was really at a crossroads in my life. Once some of the women in the church were aware of what was going on in my life, they started dropping meals off to the house. Those simple actions by the women of the church got me coming back to Tuckahoe on a regular basis. I'm not sure if any of the women realized the positive effect that their simple gesture of delivering meals had on me, but I label their actions as a timestamp event in my life. A few years later, Tuckahoe decided to take a mission trip to the Gulf to help with post-Katrina cleanup. My oldest daughter, Maggie, was off at college, so I asked my youngest daughter, Laura, if she would like to go, and she agreed. Our trip was in late March. We were about 30 minutes outside of New Orleans. We stayed behind a Presbyterian church in glorified tents. By the time we arrived at the church, it was dark, chilly, foggy, and misting. Not the type of weather you would expect in southern Louisiana in late March. To make matters worse, Laura, when she was a teenager, was allergic to the cold. She would break out with hives if she got too cold. As our group stood outside our tents, my daughter said, "Dad, you didn't tell me it was going to be like this." As I'm standing there trying to think of what to say, I felt the presence of people behind me moving closer. And then a voice said, "Now, Laura, everything is going to be just fine." Perhaps it was the voice of the Lord who was talking through Terry Brady. And Terry had an accomplice in Mickey Mateer, along with a few other women. Before I knew it, the ladies had escorted Laura into the women's tent, got her settled in, and from that point on, we had an amazing trip. Laura's favorite color is pink. She had a pink baseball hat that she wore on the trip. During our trip, Laura befriended two little twin girls, and before we left, they both had pink baseball hats. One of my all-time favorite pictures of Laura is with those two little girls, all three of them in pink baseball caps. What was also amazing about our mission trip was the camaraderie and closeness of the whole mission team. I think all of us thoroughly enjoyed each other's company and really felt a sense of accomplishment as we started our trip back to Richmond. I would classify this as a timestamp event in my life. I had a short stint as a middle school Sunday school teacher. I believe it was Sherry Flournoy that talked me into teaching that class along with Jennifer Albertson. All three of us were William and Mary graduates, and we had a great time teaching together. I believe there are natural-born teachers, and then there are those who are less gifted at teaching. I fall into the latter category. As we were ending a year of teaching, Sherry decided to go around the room and ask the kids what they liked about the middle school Sunday school class. As Sherry asked the question to one of the boys in the class, he gave it some thought, and his answer was, "I like to come to class because lots of time Mr. Hogan brings donuts." Well, that's not exactly a ringing endorsement of my teaching ability. Sherry, Jennifer, and I had a lot of laughs and enjoyed our time together. Perhaps this was not a timestamp event in my life, but it was certainly memorable, and we did get a lot of laughs from Mr. Hogan lots of times brings donuts. My last story is about being involved with delivering meals for Feed More. I don't think I ever would have been involved with Feed More if I was not a member of Tuckahoe. As many of you know, Feed More delivers over 30 million meals annually to those who struggle with hunger in the Richmond metro area. They are an amazing organization with an army of volunteers, with many Army members from Tuckahoe. For me, it is a rewarding experience when we make our deliveries. Everyone is so appreciative of the meals they receive, but on many occasions, I wonder if I will be the only person that the meal recipient sees on this particular days. In many ways, it is a reality check for me and reminds me that many people in our metro area really do need help. In closing, I think back on the past 30 years as a member of Tuckahoe Presbyterian Church and the events I've outlined in my talk. Zelma inviting my family to church, the women of the church bringing meals to the house, Terry and Mickey Brady stepping in to rescue me in the darkness. These simple but meaningful gestures certainly have made a difference in my life. I do believe it was a Christian spirit working through ordinary people. The most wonderful and meaningful thing about TPC has certainly been the members, and also the pastors and the staff. And as I look back on the past 30 years, I feel truly blessed that TPC has been a part of my life. I feel that TPC, Tuckahoe, has been a timestamp event in my life.